Chapter 3 Beast on the Nile. All aboard, said Charles. The English couple led the way across the gangplank onto the deck of their sailboat. The boat had a long cabin with a tall mast and a furled sail. Two crew members in the white clothes were mopping the deck. Miss Selina, one called. Lord and Lady Bickerson are waiting inside to visit with Miss Florence. Oh no, I didn't know they were coming, Selina said under her breath. Charles stopped and stroked his mustache. Excuse me, my dear, he said, but while these particular folk are aboard, I believe I shall take a stroll. Pleasure to meet you, Jack and Annie. He tipped his hat and then retreated back down the gangplank. Coward, called Selina. Charles turned and saluted her from the river bank. Do give my best to the Bickersons, darling. Ta-da, he said, and off he went. Who are the Bickersons? Asked Annie. Selina sighed. Oh, Lord and Lady Bickerson are aristocrats from London, she said. They're friends of Florence's family. Come and meet them, brave American children. It might be good for your education. The boat rocked gently on the calm water as Jack and Annie followed Selina across the deck. Aristocrats? Annie whispered to Jack. That's like royalty, right? Well, sort of, said Jack. We have to act proper, though. No problem, said Annie. We've hung out with Empress Maria Theresa of Austria and King Philip in the Second Macedonia. Yeah, well, don't mention that to anyone, said Jack. Duh, said Annie. Selina stopped in front of one of the cabin doors and took a breath. Are you ready? She asked Jack and Annie. Yes, said Jack, eager to get out of the heat and away from the flies. Selina opened the door and motioned for Jack and Annie to follow her. They walked into a small sitting room with green paneled walls and dark woodwork. It took a moment for Jack's eyes to adjust from the sunlight to the shadowy room. It was much cooler inside than outside, but the red faced man and woman sitting stiffly on straight backed chairs were both fanning themselves frantically. Lord and Lady Bickerson, hello! I'm so sorry that Florence is not here now. I'm sure she'll be back soon, said Selina. But in the meantime, please meet Jack and Annie from America. Hello, said Jack with a bow. Greetings, my lord. Greetings, my lady, said Annie with a curtsy. The aristocrats barely nodded. They fanned themselves harder. Have a seat, children, said Selina. Jack and Annie sat on the edge of the sofa, and Jack tried to keep his back as straight as he could. When he saw Lady Bickerson, oh, excuse me, Lady Bickerson's scowl at his hat, he quickly pulled it off. How are your lordship and ladyship today? Asked Selina. The two aristocrats spoke at once. Terrible! Wretched! Said Lord Bickerson. Burning up! Said his wife. Oh, I'm so sorry, said Selina, but Jack noticed that she didn't sound sorry at all. We saw a dreadful beast this morning, said Lady Bickerson. A dreadful beast? Selina repeated. Yes, a crocodile, said Lord Bickerson. And a servant told us a hippopotamus was spotted upriver yesterday. Nile hippos kill people, you know. The Egyptian jackals had been seen recently, too. They came out at night and they slay small animals. He looked at Jack and Annie. They have even been known to attack children. Furthermore, our servants have been telling us about the snakes in Egypt, said Lady Bickerson. The black mamba, for instance. One bite from this monster contains enough poison to kill 20 people. Oh my. Well, let's hope, began Selina. Of course, the biggest killer in this land is the vicious little mosquito, Lord Bickerson interrupted. Egyptian mosquitoes can carry terrible diseases. Malaria, for one, fever, coma, death. Oh, such misery, said Selina. Yes, aren't we all terribly miserable and frightened in Thebes? Said Lady Bickerson. Actually, I'm not miserable or frightened, Annie said thoughtfully. We saw a crocodile today too, but it was harmless. She smiled at Lord and Lady Bickerson, and they stared back at Annie as if she was a mosquito. Suddenly, a servant threw open the door and stood at attention, and spoke in a loud voice. Countess von Kensky! A glamorous-looking woman draped in a red silk shawl bustled in. Her dark hair was piled high on her head. On one shoulder there was a tiny monkey. The monkey looked like a little elf with a wrinkled face, big pointy ears, and bushy eyebrows. Oh, look, it's cute, said Annie. Countess von Kensky, I believe you have met Lord and Lady Bickerson, said Selina. Oh, yes, said the Countess, nodding to the Bickersons, but neither Coco or I have met these lovely children. Who are you? We're Jack and Annie from America, said Annie. Delightful, said the Countess. Jack and Annie, this is Koku von Kensky. I am from Budapest, Hungary, but she is a baby baboon from the Sudan in Africa. Koku, say hello. As the Countess leaned forward to Jack and Annie, Koku grabbed Jack's ear with her tiny fingers and yanked hard. Ow, said Jack. The baby baboon grinned as if he thought Jack was funny. Koku, no, no, said the Countess, pulling Koku's hand from his ear. A big no, no, thought Jack, rubbing his ear. "Ah, woo!" said the baboon, looking at Jack with big eyes. "Ah, woo yourself," said Annie, laughing and reaching out to pet Koku. "Careful, child, she'll bite you," said Lord Bickerson. "Excuse me, my lord, but my darling Koku never bites," said the Countess. The look on Bickerson's face grew even more sour as Annie rubbed the baboon's silky, spiked little head. Koku stared at Annie with bright, curious eyes and then let out a shrill screech. Annie screeched right back at her. Everyone laughed, except, of course, the aristocrats, and and who now glared at Annie as if Koku and she were both little mosquitoes. Before the Bickersons could speak, the door opened again. A tall, slender woman stepped inside, clutching a notebook. She was breathless, sunburned, and smiling, but her smile quickly turned to a look of dismay when she saw all of the visitors. "Florence! Finally!" said Selina. Florence Nightingale wore a plain gray dress. Her brown hair was parted in the middle. "Hello, Florence, my dear," said Bickersons. "Sit down, please." Florence took a seat and then smiled politely. "Greetings, my lord, my lady," she said, and her eyes were softened as they rested on the Countess and the baby baboon. "Hello, Countess. How is our little Koku today?" "Very happy," said the Countess. "She has just made two wonderful new friends from America." She nodded towards Jack and Annie. "Oh, hello," said Florence. "Hello," said Jack. Annie could not speak. She just stared at Florence with wide eyes and a great big grin. "Oh, excuse me." "Flo, this is Jack and Annie," said Selina. "They would like to meet you." Florence looked puzzled. "But why?" she said. "For some reason they believe you are a world-famous nurse who works in hospitals," said Selina. Florence looked curiously at Jack and Annie. "A world-famous nurse?" she said. "How strange." "Strange indeed," said Lady Bickerson with a snort. "Work in a hospital? That's unthinkable." "Unthinkable, my lady?" said Florence. "Well, your mother and father would certainly find it so," Lord Bickerson said huffily. A sad expression crossed Florence's face as she looked back at Jack and Annie. "No, children," she said, "I am not a world-famous nurse. In fact, I have never, not even for one day, worked in a hospital. My family would think it unthinkable." Selina jumped up to change the subject. "What Flo really loves is taking notes about Egyptian ruins," she said to Jack and Annie. "That's why we make such wonderful oh, excuse me again. We make such wonderful traveling companions. She loves to take notes. I love to sketch. Tell our guest about your morning, Flo." "Well, I was at the Temple of Luxor," said Florence, brightening. "I studied the paintings, particularly the one of the Anubis." "Anubis," said Jack. "Well, it's the jackal god," said Florence. "He's on many of the tomb walls. Ancient Egyptians believed that jackals protected the dead. I find that so fascinating." "Oh, that is fascinating," said Annie. Lady Bickerson shuddered. "Ugh, I find it gruesome," she said. "It's not gruesome at all, my lady," said Florence. "I find Egyptian mythology to be quite beautiful." "I think so too," said Jack. "Beautiful?" said Lord Bickerson. "I don't see how one could find anything in this land beautiful, Florence. I can't imagine why you would want to prowl around in these ghastly ruins." "Nor I," said Lady Bickerson. "They all stink of rats and decay." "Oh, speaking of rats," said the Countess, "Koku and I saw one in our cabin last night. Neither of us could sleep a wink after that." "We never sleep," said Lady Bickerson, "not with the rats and flies and fleas, and that dreadful singing from the crew. It hurts my ears." "Oh, I am so sorry you find everything so distasteful in this land, my lady," said Florence. "It makes me wonder why you and your lordship ever chose to come to Egypt in the first place." "Why, these days it's considered quite fashionable to visit Egypt," said Lady Bickerson, "though now Lord Bickerson and I can't possibly understand why." I adore Egypt, Florence said, and I feel that I must defend her. Egypt and I quite agree with each other. Indeed, said Lord Bickerson. You adore Egypt. She agrees with you, and you feel you can defend her? You certainly seem to have an excellent opinion of yourself, Miss Nightingale. Florence took a deep breath, and then she said quietly, No, in truth, I do not have an excellent opinion of myself, my lord. I have an excellent opinion of you, said Annie. An awkward silence filled the room. Forgive me, said Florence. I am not feeling well. I must retire to my own cabin. I fear that I must. And with that, Florence Nightingale rose from her chair and slipped soundlessly out of the room.